Entering Heaven Alive is the second album from Jack White, my favorite musician of all time, and earlier this year he released Fear of the Dawn, which I absolutely love. So of course it's Jack White, and I was very excited for Entering Heaven Alive. I knew this one would be a slower, more acoustic album, and I went into it with the right expectations, and I came out loving it. I'm one of those people that waits until midnight, and yes, albums actually drop at midnight here on Eastern Standard Time, which is kind of nice, and I wait up there, I listen to them, and then I review them right away. So I've only listened to this album once, but it is about 40 minutes long. It features 11 songs here, and later on in the review, I will go in depth on every single one of the songs, song by song, throughout the entire thing, and give you my very specific thoughts on each of them, so you know what you should listen to, maybe what you shouldn't, but you'll have to stick around and wait and see. So as I said earlier, Jack White is probably my favorite musician of all time, just because of all the stuff he's done with obviously the White Stripes and the Dead Weather and the Raconteurs and his solo career. I was so excited that not only were we getting one, but two Jack White albums this year, and both of them have been very good. The big question a lot of people will be asking is this better than Fear of the Dawn? And in my opinion, no. But that doesn't take away from its greatness. There's a lot in this album that I loved, maybe a few things that I didn't, and I will get into that, but the acoustic work here is phenomenal. We've heard parts of it on other White Stripes albums, and more so with like Blunderbuss, yep, that's what it is, his first solo album, and he's been really good. I think he's a really underrated slide player, and there isn't much slide on this album, but just acoustic overall. There's lots of really great finger picking exercises here, and just so many different ways, and he just shows you what you can really do with an acoustic guitar, because obviously we've seen Jack put his other guitars through hell, and we've loved it, but here, taking an acoustic guitar, that's a whole other challenge, and it works. I think Jack nailed the whole atmosphere of this album, because it's completely different than something like Fear of the Dawn, because Fear of the Dawn, again, is very nighttime music, and you feel like you're trapped in this almost like dark place, and the sun is like coming up, but it's like, is it really coming up? That's kind of the feel I get from that album. But this one, it kind of feels like the sun is starting to set, but like you're calm and you're just like sitting out on a back porch just watching it. That's the feeling I get from this album. But I obviously don't mean that as a fault at all, because the lyrics here are the most personal they've been from Jack in quite some time, and maybe even ever, but there still is a story element to it. I feel like in a lot of these songs, some of it is drawn from personal experience. There are a few songs in particular, like Please God, Don't Tell Anyone, that kind of seems like it's partially pulled from Jack's life, but then there's other songs that feel more story-based, and I think the mix of them was really great. And the metaphors here, although maybe not super different and stuff you've never seen before, they still really work here, and I really loved almost every single song here. There are a few songs that maybe are not the best, and one of those is the kind of acoustic folk version of Taking Me Back. You probably expected me to say that, and that's just because we've seen a better way it's been done. Some people may prefer this, but it's one of those songs that's fun to just kind of listen to and go like this and stomp your foot along to, but just, you know, there's a better version of it out there. So that's at least what I was thinking, and certain songs are definitely better than others, and certain songs stick with you more. But I mean, overall, I can't really think of a moment here where I was like, oh, let's just get to the next song. I still enjoyed all the songs of this album. Even though I didn't love the Taking Me Back Gently, I still think that it's solid and it's fun, and it's also the last song on the album here. But I just think this album is something new from Jack, because again, we've seen hints of his acoustic work on all his other albums, depending on, you know, the White Stripes, Raconteurs, not so much with the Dead Weather, a little bit, and then in his earlier kind of solo albums we heard more of it, but here he just goes full out, and I think that was smart. I think it was smart to split up this album and Fear of the Dawn to just really narrow down on the sound. Obviously Fear of the Dawn was more experimental and had just heavy distorted and fuzzed out riffs, whereas this one It's calm, it's chill, and you know what to expect here. Do not go into this album be like, oh, I heard an acoustic song, let's hear a rock song, because you're not really going to feel that. Sure, you could say this is acoustic rock, but I find that this album is more kind of folky and maybe a little bit bluesy in a way, because I know that's what Jack really took inspiration from, obviously with the White Stripes, but still with this album, you have to go into it with the proper expectations or else you will be disappointed, but that's kind of your own fault in my opinion. But let's go through all the songs here because you guys are probably dying to know what I think of all of them individually, because that's really when you can tell how an album is, because you could say, oh yeah, this album's really good overall, but people really want to see what you think of every single song specifically. A tip from you to me is the opening song here, and the storytelling is perfect here, and there's this powerful piano that kind of covers the whole song, but there's also subtle acoustic and bass work in the background. I think it's a fantastic opening track that really sets the tone for the rest of the album, and then it goes into All Along the Way, and I just think this features an instantly recognizable intro. The simplicity in the vocals add this raw feeling to the album, at least so far. The instrumental never feels over the top, and it builds to something that may be a little bit unexpected, but still feels unique. This might even be my favorite song on the entire album, because although I expected kind of an acoustic piano-filled song here, there are still little hints of stuff and subtle little details in the back and in the lyrics that I really loved. Help Me Along feels like you've teleported back into the 60s with its dreamy keyboard intro. 2 minutes in, it builds up to this much grander, more explosive moment, but still, there's not a hint of distorted or fuzzed out guitar yet. It's definitely a catchy song, but not one of the best on this album. But Love Is Selfish is the next song, and it was the first official single from this album, and I've loved it ever since. It feels more produced than the others, and take that as you will, but the lyrics here are so touching and the finger picking is just brilliant. Jack sounds like he's pouring his whole heart and soul into the song without overdoing it, which I really appreciate. I've Got You Surrounded With My Love is the first time where we hear electric guitar on the album, at least I think. The machine-like sound in the right speaker holds your interest as other sounds fly around your head. This is definitely the most experimental song on the album, just like how Fear the Dawn had all that weird stuff in the middle. This is kind of the Entering Heaven Alive version of it, but it's not bad by any means. It'll grow on me the more I listen to the album, just like the songs did on Fear of the Dawn. Queen of the Bees once again feels like a trip back in time with a thumpy beat and an old-fashioned orchestra sound. You can hear Jack smiling while singing here, and I just know he was having the time of his life throughout. For some reason, this feels a little bit Disney-like, but it's a fun time. Was that an elephant in the background though? A Tree on Fire Within instantly opens with a grand piano sound that feels classic. Jack opens the song with lyrics suggesting a story that's told by a confused narrator. The mix is so well done here because the little bass fills in the right speaker are so satisfying. This is another one of my favorites off the album. And just quickly, I have to talk about the mix here because obviously mixing distorted guitar and bass is a lot more difficult than mixing acoustic guitar and bass, but there's just something about the sound. It feels so full that I really love. It feels like there's a tiny bit of moving space for you. It's not like way too compressed and everything, and I really appreciate that. I'm not exactly sure who mixed the album right now, but when I get the vinyl, I'll probably read it and find out. If I Die Tomorrow sounds like one of those acoustic songs that typically were on the movie soundtracks in the 90s. Of course, it was another single, but the quick chord changes hiding in the background intrigue me with a soothing wind instrument flying over top. Jack never fails with his double-track vocals either, and maybe this one is more radio-friendly and single-like, but I still really enjoy it. Please God Don't Tell Anyone is another example of the fact that you can always tell what a song is going to be called on this album by just listening to the opening lines. At this point in the album, you're either going to be super used to the acoustic sound or you're going to be stupid and disappointed expecting a rock song. Jack's folky vocals shine here with a little bit more edge and push than before, plus this feels like an extremely personal song that tells a little bit of an unknown story from his past. A Madman from Manhattan sounds like the title to a crime film noir picture from the 40s. The slight dissonance on Jack's vocals add to this classy feeling over top of a quickly picked repeating pattern on an acoustic guitar. The subtle crashes and rapid fills really add to the tension of the song, but I can picture Jack sitting in a detective's office with the blinds half closed recording this song in black and white. This one might even be my favorite song on the album. I just really love the atmosphere of this song specifically. I think it's tied between this one and the second track. Taking Me Back Gently feels like a fun little bonus track to this album. Obviously, I think that Fear of the Dawn's version is miles better than this one, as mentioned before, but it's still a fun song to throw on Stomp Your Foot to, although if it wasn't here, I wouldn't miss it, but I'm also not mad that it's on the album. It's a fun way to close it out, and overall, this album is just super satisfying. Jack White's Entering Heaven Alive is a calming album to throw on and stomp your foot to, but it'll make you pause and rethink what you just heard. The brilliant acoustic work here shines throughout and presents so many different styles so that you never get bored. Jack's lyrics are the most personal they've been in years, but there still is a fantasy element throughout that keeps you intrigued. Maybe it's not as good as Fear of the Dawn, but I still loved my time with it. I'm going to give Entering Heaven Alive a 4 out of 5. A very solid album. I cannot wait to go pick this one up on vinyl. Obviously, after I edit this video, I'm going to go to bed. And then when I wake up, like the first thing I do in the morning, besides get ready and shower and all that, is go out, pick up the vinyl. I might make a video on it. I'm not 100% sure, but I cannot wait. I'm going to get one of the indie exclusive ones. But this album is really great. I cannot wait to listen to it more and more. I know, just like Fear of the Dawn, I'm going to start loving it more and more and finding little details throughout, but there are so many fantastic songs on this album. It is one of my favorites of the year. Of course, I bet that doesn't surprise you, but if you have listened to the album, let me know what you think of it down below. What is your favorite solo Jack White album? I will be ranking them very soon, and thank you all for watching. I will see you guys next time. Over and out.